About 6 weeks it took to do this video. Took about 6 weeks. I'll go through the music. It's going to give it all away though, and then I'll go into it after. I'll tell you before I begin, if you want to just skip to some timestamp that I won't put under the video, but you can just skip ahead if you want. This step's wrong nowhere. There's no place where this is slightly lacking. No place. This would have had a video done with the Anole QDC VX, which is a flagship by a fantastic company, but it was sent by a person on Discord, which was, you know, there's no videos. Can you do a video? If I put it in with this and then said that these are pretty much twins, I think that I would have been possibly insulting the person that had paid a lot of his own money and then using his as a prop for this. I don't know if you're following me. If I get 2 items and I pay for them, I have no qualms about saying this M11, that was sent to me actually, this M11 sounds as good as a DX220, and going any other way is you're splitting hairs to your convenience. But comparing the 220 to $5,000 Sony, that's okay. So that's why I got really not cool about that. So comparing 2 items is actually a good way to elevate one or the other, depending on what you're comparing it to. And I had the opportunity to take this, to compare it with the Anole, and to say, you're looking at a thing that costs half the price of the other thing, and I think that it's really difficult to tell the difference between the two. And then I thought, don't do it. Don't do it. That's not cool. And so I didn't do it. I packed it up nicely. I sent it back to the person, and he's got it. He didn't die in an accident because I would have kept him. And I didn't act like an idiot with another person's expensive set. I just did the review and sent them back. But now they're gone. And I put this in the #1 position, and I've got to kind of explain to you a couple things. Grabs are... they're like a doctor's tool where you can take a look and see what the problem is. I think looking at graphs before you listen to things gives you it gives you a subconscious bias, if not totally in your consciousness. I did that before about, so I won't get into that. You're looking at a set that has a deviation. Those are 5 dB blocks. The variation from the bass to the mids is about 5 dB. From the mids to the highest point of the treble, roughly about 5 dB. That's a very, very, from 30 to 8K. It's a very stable graph with nothing's jumping out saying like that could be a problem. None. Timestamp. Let's look at the timestamp of this one first. This is the QDC Anole VX, $2,500 roughly. Same blocks, and you've got a variation. These sound fantastic, by the way. I absolutely love them. The variation from the bass to the mids is about 8 dB. Looks like we're down 1 and we're short 1 right there, so let's call that 8, which is a bigger deviation than the other set. And then you go into a very nice transition into the treble. Got a little dip there, but it's nothing that I really perceived as being a problem. 8K is elevated. It's not a problem relative to the rest of 8K is not a problem unless it's jumping out. 8K is part of the musical information. That's not 16K like, oh, there's nothing out there. There's plenty going on at 8K. It's when it stands out relative to the rest of the spectrum that it's an issue. And it doesn't. It's a very, very nice set. Now we go back. When I did this graph, I was doing it because I thought already in my head, these sound really close. Let me graph them. And so I did. And then I looked at them and I thought, this is kind of what I'm hearing. This is not stepping wrong anywhere. 8K is actually slightly caved right there. That's 8K. 6 is slightly elevated, but again, that entire course of treble is sitting within the same 5 dB block pretty much until it gets to like 10 or 11K, and then it starts precipitously dropping off. But from the beginning of the treble to fundamental practical end of it, it's within 5 dB all along. And 8 dB is not only is it not stepping out, it's taking a back seat slightly. So this should be used after the fact and to discover issues that are heard, but some people it's the first tool. I get it. I did this weeks ago, and now I'm finally doing the review. So on a technical aspect, if somebody would look at that, they might say, I'm not seeing an issue. You're not. I'm not hearing it either. First song. Now we'll start to go through the music. This is Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. This is a good track for male and female vocals. And they are both Broadway singers, pretty much. He's got, I think, a background in opera. She was actually on a Broadway show, a few. Their vocal range is impressive. The song is impressive. They're talking, singing, they're yelling. The vocal range of male and female in this track is fantastic. The pace of the song changes several times. This sounds really good. Something that's got an elevated bass might lose some of the details, or it might make the male and female voices sound slightly fuller than would seem to be natural with this set. That's not the case at all. These shine with vocals. Again, the graph would indicate there wouldn't be any obvious issue with the vocals. There is none existing when I listen to it. Do you know? Go check a video for this, man. They did this live. They did the live as good as the one that was done on the album. This is the Marshall Tucker Band. Can't you see? This is just an acoustic jam wrapped up in a 70s album. It's a total classic. Fucking love it to death. These shine with acoustic guitar, and there are several examples in my playlist that kind of bears this out. And again, vocals are... There's some IEMs where even though the mids don't reflect any kind of a dip, it sounds like the vocals a little bit back. And I sometimes attribute that to maybe the recording, but there's other times where it sounds very, very nice, and this would be one of those sets that does that. You see the pattern now? You see the problem? There really is not like I always take a song and say, this is where this thing doesn't really, step out. Leonard Skinner, Street Survivors. This is actually not. One more from the road. This is Freebird. If you don't know this song, you can listen to it on the internet. If you don't know this song, I can't believe I just said that. Freebird. You don't know this song? This is great song because there's parts of it where there's people in the crowd on the left and on the right, the perceived front, left, right, which is actually probably very slightly forward to your ear, just like the front part of your ear. You could literally touch the front of where your ear is, and that's actually where it is. Where it sounds like it is, but your brain sends it out. It's a psychoacoustic illusion that the guy that's out there saying "Freebird, Freebird," and then another person from the other side yelling it, and it seems like you've got this sense of depth. It's fake, but stuff plays it like that. This would be one of those items that does that. This gives me that sense of space, of forward space, even though I've done the Chesky stuff, and you never get past. Like over here. You never get here. You never get here. At best, when stuff's behind you, it sounds like it's above your head. Stuff in front of you, when it's doing those Chesky things. For in-ear monitors, I've never heard it. Maybe the iSign 20s gave me kind of something like that, but I don't know. Anyway, this sense that there's people out in the crowd, free bird, and then he's over here, songs that you want to hear. I just read a biography on YouTube about these guys for like the 10th time. Fascinated. Bad Boys, Southern Rock. Dude was convinced he was going to die before he was 30, Ronnie Van Zant, and he did. Like, I think 9 months before he turned 30, he died. And that has nothing to do with the review, but a little musical history right there. This song sounds great on this set. It's a live recording. One more from the road. All of the tracks on this are live. It sounds very much like a Day on the Green's recording. If you ever listen to the Day on the Green YouTube video, it's a very famous video of them doing Freebird live. They do it perfectly. Ronnie Van Zant used to take them to a shed, and they would train for 8 to 12 hours again and again, like a drill sergeant. He drilled these guys like a team. So when you see them doing double guitar solo on stage on Day of the Green on YouTube, and you look at them thinking, how the fuck do these two guys they're fucking note for note right together. They actually trained that, man. So I'm giving you some rock and roll history here. Ronnie Van Zant used to take these guys to a fucking shed called the Hell House, and I saw this last night. I knew about it before, but I saw it last night. And they trained for 8 to 12 hours a day, and then go home dead tired, and then come back and do it again because he wanted to be the best. They met the Who. They opened for the Who. People were throwing quarters at them. And then by the end of the set, they were asking them to come back to do an encore, and that was the first time the opening act for The Who. And then The Who's manager became their manager, because he's not stupid. These guys are going to be awesome. But the double guitar solo that they do on Day of the Green, go watch that and then consider, how do two people play that like that? Well, because practice, man. And Ronnie Van Zant did that for them. Listening to that on this is a joy. And we're getting into that whole, does this do anything wrong? Wrong. No. Actually, no. This is, don't know how I'm gonna tell you. This is Led Zeppelin 3. It's the most acoustic of all of the albums that they released. It was recorded at Branier Studios in France. The stories behind this song are many and lots, and so I won't get into that, but it's the acoustic guitar vocal songs are the ones that you can most kind of tune your OCD brain into and pick out stuff that doesn't seem to match what you're used to hearing or is not appealing. Again, acoustic and vocals are shining on this set. Sound really good. That's the way, oh, that's the way it ought to be. And there's a kind of an echo to Robert Plant's. It's almost like a quadraphonic type effect going on. If you know what I'm talking about? That's the way, that's the way. It sounds like it's panning forward and back on the left and the right channel. So if you had a quadraphonic system, it would be hitting all four. There's a part of this song that actually does this, and I've never read that it was recorded that way. It gives that kind of effect. It's the 70s, man. Sounds great on this set. Jim Croce, not Croce. I had people come in and say, it's not Croce. Please, I'm introducing a group of people on the internet that might have never heard of Jim Croce in their life, and I repeatedly put him in my videos. So if you really are a fan of this guy, shh the fuck up. Let them look at him. The name of this song is Operator. Won't you help me make this go? Isn't that the way they say it goes? Well, forget all that and give me the number if I can't find it, so I can call just to tell them I'm fine and to show I've overcome the blow. I've learned to take it well. I only wish my words could just convince myself that it just wasn't real, but that's not the way it feels. So I'm sorry. I've been loving this dude since I was a little kid. I'm trying to introduce him to the crowd, and people keep coming and talking about his fucking last name. Sorry, Croce. He died too young. He died after going to a show at a university in front of a few hundred people when he was booming in America. He had 2 hits, I think, in the top 10, and he canceled that show previously and then wanted to keep his promise, and it was the last show he was going to do. Went down there, did the show, crashed his plane, leaving, and died after doing it at a university. I can't remember the name of the school, but he was doing a fucking solid for the kids to keep his promise, and ended up dying. I've heard the recording of that final session because somebody was recording it very poorly, obviously, but the guy was a fucking brilliant songwriter, and it sounds good. The only thing that sounds better than this on this might be Ripple by the Grateful Dead. And there we go. Jerry Garcia, some guitar, some other instruments, but it's really Jerry and the guitar doing all the work, and it sounds outstanding. I was hesitant to do this review because it's just praise, and now I'm into that. Fuck it. I love music, and this thing makes music sound great. It doesn't. There's the graph right there. It doesn't step wrong in any kind of way. I'm not. Mixed emotions, man. Why does it take this much money to get this quality sound? Even though this is half the price of the QDC Anole VX, why can't they do this for cheaper? Kind of annoyed, like they're holding back the stuff, like Apple, like they're not going to put something this generation because they got to save something for next generation. Doobie Brothers. This is a track where the bass is coming in right at the beginning. Boom, dun, dun, dun. It's very prominent throughout the whole song, but it's coming in right at the beginning, and this is balanced armature, but the bass actually sounds really good. This is what impressed me by the Anole, and this also. They were doing bass well. They are not replacements for dynamic drivers. I'd always have a set of DDs in my collection if I could. The TFC3 right now would be the one I'd pick. EX1000 that's automatic, but as far as like a fun, enjoyable set, the TFC number 3. If you bought that, enjoy it. It's fucking great. I love it a lot. You can't replace that kind of bass with a balanced armature, but this does this really good, minus the tactile sensation that you get. The cars, that's actually not what I was going for. Okay. I forget the basis because somebody told me in the comment. Sorry. He's doomed to be forgotten. Remembered, but not by name, just by his quality fucking bass. Steve Winwood, Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker. The hi-hat splash just before Steve Winwood does his first verse is something that I'm looking for. A crash, not a splash. This gives me a crash, does not give me a splash. The way that Ginger Baker plays with his cymbals and hi-hats is, he's got a very simple drum kit, Ginger Baker. You should watch a video about that guy someday. He comes through really, really nice on this. This whole song is brilliant. So what you just watched for 17 minutes, 43 seconds, according to this thing's timer, is somebody talk about a set of IEMs that cost $1,000 and everything he's looking at sounds great. That's so fucking convenient, isn't it? That's why I didn't do this video for 5 weeks. Because it's chi-fi. My Empire ears cost double this, and I paid for it with my own money, so I'm not against paying big money for IEMs, and I do think it sometimes has a benefit, but I don't like when it's like the automatic thing. Like this thing is expensive, so it's great. No, it's not the truth. But this actually is expensive, and it actually is great. And there is not a song in my library, whether it's hip-hop, like folk music, nothing that doesn't sound great. The 3 bass instruments that are starting out at the beginning of coming in from the cold, steel drum, stand-up bass, and a clavinet. Not the Looney Tunes fucking video dude, the actual instrument that he's named himself after. Sounds awesome. So this does bass well. It is slightly elevated. Everything that exists in the from the beginning of the end of that bass all the way across the treble, which is the vocal range, fundamental and harmonic. There's nothing jumping out, and there's nothing jumping out. It just sounds good. Let's get a close-up look at this before I put a lid on this. Sometimes people say, are those, the tips don't have a... Man, don't worry, the tips are not coming off. It's got 3 bores. It's got, see that hose right there? That's going all the way over the driver and to the back. One of those hoses is going all the way around. It's not like 1, 2, 3 short hoses. That is a long one. They're using that for tuning. This really is a brilliant set. Selling my name to be precise, ripping mics